Burlington, Vermont. This small city of about 43,000 is the birthplace of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, the jam band Fish, and the adopted hometown of a fiery populist who served as mayor for 8 years and happens to be one of the nation's leading Democratic candidates for president, Bernie Sanders.
People here in Vermont would say about Bernie is that he's been saying the same song, but he's been consistent with what his beliefs are for a long time about multinational corporations and all the rest. But the message that we've heard from Bernie for decades is he's now, saying on the national stage, and it seems to have caught fire. He is obviously one of the top 2 or 3 contenders in the race for president right now on the Democratic side.
Burlington sits on the eastern shore of Lake Champlain, just south of the Canadian border, far closer to Montreal than to any big city in the United States. Its low-rise blocks of old brick storefronts and clapboard homes can be walked end to end in an hour.
Burlington is, it's an open place. Here, there aren't 6 degrees of separation. There's really 1 or 2. Once you start talking to someone, you'll understand how much you have in common.
I love Burlington so much because we have somewhat of a city with the outdoors very accessible, very close by.
Burlington has always been a very liberal city.
People are pretty politically active, people are very opinionated, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
The Republican Party is a very distinct minority. The third party, it's Democrats and progressives have very distinct parties in Burlington, though.
The population here is about 83% white, and about 17% of people here live below the poverty line.
In Vermont, your currency is doing good. It's not how much money you make. It's not how big your house is. It's like, what are you doing for the world?
It's a pretty laid-back place with growing diversity, and it's a place where immigrants and working people continue to live. And Bernie lived in this community, and the way that you get elected here is you knock on people's doors.
In 2009, Sanders moved from the working-class South End near downtown to a 4-bedroom, vinyl-sided colonial in a more detached, suburban part of the city called the New North End.
After World War II, there was a huge need for housing for the returning GIs, and they took this neighborhood, which was barely built. So what they ended up doing was they threw up a bunch of smaller houses that GIs could afford, and it just kept going down what we call in Burlington the Avenue.
It's a neighborhood carved from forest in the 1950s for ranch homes, cul-de-sacs, and big backyards.
So that's Bernie's house right there. People in Vermont are very protective of Bernie. It's certainly okay to go drive by, but we're pretty cool about not being weird. Like, we don't stalk our politicians. We're not that type. It's not like tons of people show up at Bernie's house and snap selfies in front of it. We don't care, frankly. I mean, most people in Vermont really love what Bernie's done and doing, but it's just not part of our culture to be that way.
And Sanders is still seen all over town.
It's highly likely, and I know a lot of people have, we bump into Bernie, we bump into Patrick Leahy, and we also bump into Peter Welch, our 3 representatives down in DC.
I think I saw him walking on Church Street one time, where I was with a group of people and he just walked by. That was Bernie.
He doesn't want to be a center of attention.
You can bump into him on Church Street or on the bike lane or whatever, and he'll stop and chat with you and tell him he's doing a good job or tell him he's not.
His demeanor is kind of, it's not like, hi, how, it's just kind of like, hi, it's just sort of, he's unpolished, and I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about him.
I first met him up there in the church for the Martin Luther King celebration.
Sanders self-identifies as a democratic socialist and prides himself in advancing the most far-reaching and aggressive plans in several major policy areas. Climate is one of them.
I am prepared to stand with the working class of this country and take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite.
People are telling me that, Bernie, the plan you just released to combat climate change is expensive. And you know what? They are right. It is expensive. But the cost of doing nothing is far more expensive.
There are a lot of young people that are completely freaked out about climate change.
He's obviously not a climate change denier. That's something that's extremely important to me.
Climate change program is, again, the most comprehensive and the one that meets both the climate and the class issue.
Sanders promises that climate change will be factored into virtually every area of his policy, from immigration to healthcare to housing and beyond.
What got me involved in doing the kind of work that I do is definitely housing and issues around housing.
Vermonters have an affordability crisis.
I think that we're in danger of making living in this country unaffordable.
Housing in Burlington is really expensive. Landlords have a lot of power.
And Bernie, he's got a very comprehensive, the most comprehensive housing program right now.
No other presidential contenders have such long symbiotic relationships with the cities where they live. Burlington shaped Sanders as Sanders shaped Burlington, so much so that it's hard to consider one without the other.
He is our best hope. He's like our only hope.
He's got a gift for grassroots organizing, and when people believe in him, they'll do just about anything to get him elected. That, to me, is what a president should be.
There is a genuine chance that he might become the next president. To that I say, that is a good thing.
So you see people in Bernie's town, Burlington, Vermont, talking about him. Almost all of them had pretty positive things to say about him. They highlighted that in order to win in that city, you just have to knock a lot of doors, indicating that that's exactly what Bernie did. Shows to show how he identifies with the average person. He's willing to go out and put in work like an average person. And there was that one guy who said it was an entrepreneur, and he highlighted that most people in the city love what Bernie's been doing, and they love his grassroots organizing. There was a lawyer, so an educated individual here, saying that Bernie had the most comprehensive plan for climate change. There was that woman, small business owner, who said that he's not really polished. People like that about him, that he's not a typical politician who's trying to just be that smooth face, shaking everyone's hands, getting to know him. People like that he's a little bit reserved, and that he sometimes gets angry and aggressive when he speaks. They like that his hair's messy, that he doesn't have a nice suit, that he's not all about looks, because he's about sustenance, he's about policy, he's about bigger ideas. Even though we do live in a consumeristic society, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people see through it, and they like individuals and things that are genuine. And so this is just giving us a little taste of what people really feel about Bernie. It would be a big red flag if the majority of citizens in that city where he was once mayor, if they really disliked him. It'd be a red flag if people in his own state really disliked him. But a lot of people are overall pretty happy about Bernie. You heard the one girl say that he is our best hope. And so as he is moving towards the presidency, this is a good, positive video. Now, he talks about Medicare for all, just in general, Bernie, to talk about it. He'll point out that most of the people who are indicating that it's a bad thing, they are receiving money from insurance companies, or they are insurance companies themselves. That the average person will be better off. Employers should pay more if they are not having to pay for medical insurance. Thank you for watching.